Alrighty, ladies. What time is it?
Ask
your
aunties.
Come on, choir directors.
Yes.
This was a quick one. It just says, "Hey, aunties, looking back on your life thus far, do you feel there have been any decisions that have altered the course of your life?" That's kind of a deep one, or I guess it doesn't even have to be that deep, huh?
I would say, so the short answer is yeah. Long answer is, I would almost venture to say that almost any decision that you make is going to alter your life in a significant kind of way.
Yeah.
From what you choose to eat, to where you choose to live, to what jobs you have, to what relationships you pursue, which relationships you decide to end. Like, these decisions alter your life in very profound ways that I don't think you can even appreciate until you look back. Like, when I look back on my life, it's wild. Like, there's no way that I think that I could even predicted, let's say if I was like 13 years old, the trajectory that my life would have taken from that point to now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I had aspirations of what I want my life to be like and blah, blah, blah. But like, the relationships, the friendships, the experiences, the losses, the tragedies, like all of those things, like there's no way that I could have predicted. And I couldn't say that there was like one like critical decision that I've made that was more life altering perhaps than others. Now, granted, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this, so maybe I might be able to pinpoint, but I'm of the mindset that like every decision that you make is a life altering decision, and there are consequences and downstream impacts that you won't even be able to comprehend until after the fact.
Yeah. Landon.
The biggest decision for me would have been where I decided to go to school. So when I applied to go to a school in Boston, I didn't think I was going to get in. I had decent grades. My SAT score was shit, but I didn't think I was going to get in, and I did. And moving to Boston was probably I don't even think I would know anyone in my life right now except for maybe one other person, like Mark and Josh, obviously, because I went to high school with them. I wouldn't know the people that I know. I would not have had the relationships that I've had, and still have. My current career, none of that would have happened had I not chosen to move to Boston. And I didn't know what I was getting into. I was just happy that I got into this great school. I will say that there are some decisions that maybe weren't the best, maybe could have done differently, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I wouldn't change a damn thing. And I think we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when Jerrell, Kerel, and myself were on the podcast. We were talking about relationships and or not relationships. We were talking about just growing up gay and not changing a thing. It may have been about relationships. I wouldn't change a thing. I've learned a lot, both in the constructive way and in the like, okay, you know what? I've learned to make better decisions. I've learned to trust my gut. I've learned to be more empathetic towards other people and what they are going through, both good and bad, which is something that I'm really proud of. So I think the only thing is for me is deciding to go to school in Boston. Didn't know a damn thing about Boston. It was racist as fuck then. Didn't know that then. Didn't know that then. And it took me a while to realize that actually until round two, when I moved back there for a job in 2017. So I would just say that's probably the only thing that really determined the course of my life. Wouldn't change a thing, just because it's made me who the man I am today, and hopefully just again getting better every day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with Dawon. I mean, there's obviously small things day to day that you just don't know how it alters that trajectory, and there's big things day to day that kind of alter. But like the first one that kind of pops in mind is probably where I ended up choosing college, because I almost turned down a full ride scholarship. And just knowing what I know now, just about loans and shit like that, like
Mm-hmm.
that would have altered the course. But chose to go, and luckily came out of college debt free. So that's one. Another one's where I even started like my first job out of college. Honestly, my goal at the time was to work for Daimler Chrysler. Well, what was Daimler Chrysler, whatever Fiat
It's
Chrysler
Fiat
now.
Chrysler.
And at the time, I was supposed to go back to college for another year and a half, but they decided to drop my minor the last semester because I didn't want my last semester to be 21 credit hours. Like I had done that before,
Yeah.
and that's just a lot. I was like, nope,
That's a
no.
lot.
Yeah,
That is
I
a
did.
lot.
I probably averaged throughout those 4 years probably 18 credit hours,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
every semester.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
18 is,
that's,
yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
suggest that to anyone. That's just a shit ton.
I mean,
And I had
that's
I
full
think I had
time.
2 semesters that had 21 credit hours because
Yeah.
like I had a double major and a minor, and the minor now they've since I graduated moved up to a major because there was just that many additional credit hours. Long story short, get to the last semester, I was like, I don't want to do 21 now, and then have to still come back for like it was gonna be like 3 credit hours just because I was like it was either like 21, 24 credit hours to really get it all in, or be there for another thing. And I was like, financially, it doesn't make sense. You got to get another apartment. My scholarship was for 4 years, so I would have had to find money for that additional. So I was like, okay, drop it. Even though I knew I was supposed to go back to Daimler Chrysler for another internship, I was like, fuck it. Ended up saying to my advisor, hey, I'm going to be graduating this year, actually. And ended up going down to interview for Bayer for like a project thing we were doing. And next thing you know, I started my career literally like 4 months later at like Bayer. So had no idea who Bayer was, even though I knew Bayer aspirin. Moved to freaking Indiana, didn't know what the hell Mishawaka, Indiana was. And so like looking at that, and then just the trajectory that even Bayer took me from state to state, but then moving to Chicago, and then literally the night I met Corey was not even supposed to be at Big Chicks. I was supposed to be out in like Wrigleyville with my roommate, but he got too drunk earlier at happy hour and decided like, oh, I'm not going out. So I was like, oh, everyone keeps talking about this other gay bar, Big Chicks. Let me check out Big Chicks. Only reason I went that night, and then met Corey, and here we are, the rest of that history. So there's just these moments, like my decision to go to Big Chicks was a small moment. It was just like I had never been there. People on the apps were saying, oh, Big Chicks is a fun bar to go to. We go dancing there. I was like, okay, I like to dance. Literally, that's all the thought process was that night.
Wow.
Ended up taking a big trajectory in my life. And, and so it's hard to, like you said, Dawon, to know in the moment sometimes making a decision where it's going to take you. A lot of times you just need to make a decision and make the best educated decision in that moment, honestly.
Yeah, you got to go with what you know.
Yeah.
You got to go with what you know at the time, and sometimes what you don't know.
Or even if you don't know, scare yourself. And maybe that's one thing too. Is just like don't be afraid to be afraid.
Yeah.
I didn't know moving to Philly was going to do. I didn't know moving to Atlanta was going to do. I didn't know what moving to Chicago. I didn't know any of this. But sometimes you take the leap, and life kind of surprises yourself. Like I'm one that tries to I'm a decent planner in a lot of things, but I would say a lot of the big stuff that's kind of occurred sometimes, thank God, the blessings and whoever praying for me, whatever for them, that's what I believe. It worked out in a way, and it's like, here I am, thank you. I did the work.
I do feel like,
things, but it worked out.
Now that I had a little bit of chance to think about it and hearing both of your responses, I do think that there are certain decisions that define a crossroads in one's life, right? Like, for me, going away from home, my hometown, and going away to college was an opportunity for me to come out, right? And deciding where to go was going to determine like what my life was going to be like. So I ended up going to Kent State University, entered the fashion design program there. They have a phenomenal fashion design and merchandising program, number 3 in the nation. And I was also considering going to FIT here in New York. And I opted to go to Kent State as opposed to New York. And I think in that moment, in deciding between where to go, I knew that was a big life decision, right?
Yeah.
Like my life can go certain. I knew for a fact that my life would go a certain this way or that way. Fast forward, working for Express in Columbus, Ohio, and coincidentally, I meet my then, well, soon to be, but now ex, Christopher, and he was a stylist for Express and a couple other brands, but we never really worked together. And so, when we met, shortly after we met and like started dating and whatnot, he had already had an apartment in Chicago. And he's the reason why I actually ended up moving to Chicago. So there was another crossroads from like, do we pursue this kind of like quasi long distance thing, because I knew that he wanted to really transition his life fully to Chicago, and I was really there, and there's no fashion in Chicago, no like corporate fashion, I should say. Or specialty apparel retail. And so, I had to like decide, do I want to stay in kind of like the fashion lane, or do I want to depart and just find another job? And I found another job, working in like telecommunications and whatnot, or for that industry. So it wasn't the industry that I was interested in, but I did it for love, so it's like, right. So it's like,
stay? Do I go? I don't know.
So it's like, I thinking back on the question, like, rudimentarily, yes, like almost every decision has like long-stream impacts you don't know. But I do feel like there are specific moments in when you look back, or some people may be thinking right now, like, I'm at a crossroads of what do I do? Like, do I take that job? Do I date this person? Do I, give up drinking, drugs, and alcohol? Do I, take that move? Do I, downsize my life? Do I,
take that shit in the middle of the dance? He was thinking in his head that they like,
girl, crossroads. Yeah.
That was a bad road to go down. Girl, that was a bad road.
We're not going to Browntown again in this conversation. But yeah, like when I think on it, there are definitely moments where the decision is so profound that I think intrinsically that this is a crossroads. This is a defining moment in like my trajectory of the life that I'm going to have, right? Versus the life that I want. Right. And that's pretty interesting to like think about.
One thing, as you just commented, when I was making some of these decisions of moving to Boston twice, moving to Chicago, leaving Chicago, like a whole bunch of decisions, in those moments I was never thinking about the life that I wanted to build and the life that I wanted in the future. I was always thinking about like, what do I want like right now? And I guess that's maybe a part of youth. And over the past, I would say, couple of years, pandemic really changed everything in regards to my view about my health, my emotional, spiritual, mental, all of that. And the racial injustice protest of 2020 really opened my eyes about like, what kind of life do I want? Because let's face it, these companies don't give a fuck about you. These companies don't give a fuck about you. Like, I know that I work with people. Let me just put this out there. I work with people that I know care about me. All right. But as an institution, as an organization, these companies are going to be there long after I have left this earth. So for a while, I was always living of like, what's going to allow me to like make the most money and do what I need to do for right now. And then I would say maybe just a little bit before pandemic. And then maybe as we were kind of going through that, we're still in it, by the way. as we're going through that, it just opened my eyes to like, okay, what kind of life do I want in the long run that's going to allow me to be successful for my own personal growth and goals? What's going to allow me to take care of my family? What's going to allow me to take care of my friends? I literally I'll put this out there. I told one of my best friends out in Providence, I was like, yo, I just want to make sure that you are protected, and that like I take care of my friends. You know, I want to make sure that you are always good. If you need anything, you let me know. You got to check in on your friends. And it just made me think about like making sure that I take care of me and mine, and mine includes my family, making sure that they are protected, that they are good, instead of this, I guess, grind, hustle, trying to live in the moment and just make a whole bunch of money and go out. Like, that's just not the life that I want to live. I want to be able to, I still want to do that because we're going to do that on Friday. But I think about now, like, where do I see myself in maybe a year from now, maybe a few years? And not necessarily make those decisions based on that, but what are my goals? What do I really want? I know I do not want to be in a position where I'm a Walmart greeter at 70. That's just not, I don't want to do that.
That could be fun.
Do that.
No shade.
Oh no, don't knock it.
There's no shade. There's no
be
shade.
fun.
I just know I will curse a bitch out at the front of the store. All right,
young man, what you got there? You tell me about these newfangled TikToks. What is that all about?
Right.
What about those face ticks? So, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just know I don't want that for me. Yeah. For me, I don't want that because I'll curse the bitch out in the middle of the store.
He gonna be going viral yeah. Because the bitches are, you know. And honestly, this is, and we're kind of wrapping maybe on this though. This podcast came from one of those life-altering moments, honestly. Like, I got laid off from a job that I was in, that corporate grind and all that stuff. Always wanted to do a podcast, just didn't have the time. I was fucking traveling and all that shit all the time. And literally when it happened, I was in my feelings, don't get me wrong. Like, to get the realization, like you said, that a company that you thought gave a shit... And like you said, there's people there that absolutely did, because like there were people after that helped me get the job I'm in now, et cetera, et cetera. But as a corporation, new regimes could come in all the time and not know who the hell Kerel is or who the hell Dawon is. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean you don't care about your job and doing well and things like that. But I think that it gave me a shift in my thought process of how to approach life post a layoff.
Yeah.
And one thing I said, I was like, I am for sure going to do something that scares me a little bit, that I've always wanted to put time into, that I've never had a chance to put time into, and that would hopefully lay foundation just in case I go through that same shit again, you know?
Yeah.
And just knowing that. So like, it's interesting to have this conversation now. Here we are 3.5, almost 4 years later, of thinking of life-altering moments. And the conversations we've had, the friendships that have formed, the people we've met, and the DMs, the emails that we've been able to receive of people trusting us with some of their vulnerability and shit. Like, that's wild. And so again, just life-altering moments that you just don't know where it's going to lead to, but just sometimes trusting the process. It sucks in the moment. Getting laid off is scary. Getting laid off for something that you were actually enjoying is scary, and that you don't have control of. Death, that's scary, and it's sad. There's just moments, sickness, and all this stuff. There's just moments in life, and it can be positive stuff as well. But just sometimes take that moment, take it in, digest it, and just know, you know what? This shakeup is going to be something that I can't even predict, and trust in the process, because it usually will work out for something that you needed to work out for, that you can't even see a year, 2 years, 10 years, 50 years down the line. So, So thank you for that question. That was a cool one.
It's a great question.
And continue to say your Ask Yo Aunteas, by the way. Like, we need new ones. We know we're at the end of the year.
It can be about anything. It can be about anything.
This was cool, where it was like short to the point. It doesn't have to be long relationship troubles, send those in though. We like those as well. But it could just be anything, maybe thought starters or anything like that's just kind of on your mind. So continue to send those to aya@minoriteareport.com or DM us.